Okay. Oh, that's loud. All right, so this will be quite informal. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. Then you can do the same, and I'll go ahead and ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Um, it's really good to meet you, though. I've heard a lot about you. Um, my name is Jessica Figueroa-Meme. I'm a clinical social worker. I'm married to Jose, as you know, and we have a son, Kai. This is intern to my doctorate program. My focus right now is on administration leadership. And while I was exploring the different people that I can interview in leadership, and I realized most of them are people that I either work with or that are in the social work field. So I really needed someone who can really give us a different perspective. And I thought of you. So I'm so thankful that you agreed to do this.
Of course, of course.
Thank you. So you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Estelle Garcia. So as you know, I'm the founder and CEO of LivaFortis Inc.
Mhm.
So we develop medical devices for at-home physical therapy for people suffering from back pain.
Mhm.
I'm 30 years old. I'm French, moved to the US 7 years ago, I would say, and started the company here in Texas.
That must have been a culture shock, though, right? From France to the United States.
It was, but I really loved it. I think that the US actually has a better entrepreneurship mindset,
Mhm.
and it's more accepted for people like to try start the company, even if it fails, learn from your mistake, try something else. Whereas in France, it's more socially accepted to like work for a company for a long period of time. And
Mhm.
when you're like very experienced, when you're like, I would say like mid-age, then to start a business. So it's very different.
Oh, so that play a role into you moving to the US. That ability to start up a business, and it's okay if you fail and you can start over again.
Exactly, yes. And especially because I have an engineering background, and so you
Mhm.
can even see it like in the studies, like in France, it's very technical. We barely learn about management.
Mhm.
We learn nothing about entrepreneurship. Whereas when I came to the US to do my master program, even if it was in engineering, I was able like to take business classes, and this is where I discovered like all the entrepreneurship, and I really loved it and decided to go there.
Mhm. How do you think that shape your views or your processes and the way you conduct business? Do you feel like you can use a little bit of both what you learn in America while also, I guess, you can embed some things from the French culture in your business maneuvers, or do you feel like you can just focus on the American way?
I think that's having both is good,
Mhm.
especially like when you work with people, because I think also that the way employees are treated and business are run is very different, like from France and the US. Like, in
Mhm.
French, we are much more respectful of time, for example, compared to like the 10 days like in the US
Mhm.
usually done. So I think be able to incorporate that is also nice, definitely. Yeah.
So balance is key, basically. Finding a
Yes.
way to balance it out. Okay. Then how do you strike a balance when you're hiring for skills or for cultural fit? If you have a French background, um, do you focus on hiring people of diverse backgrounds or more Americans? How does that play into um, an inclusive hiring process?
Well, actually, I think it makes us like very open,
Mhm.
because like I came from different country, I have an accent, and so I think I'm very much more open that people are not American, that English is
Mhm.
not their first language, that they might
Mhm.
need like time to adapt. Uh,
Mhm.
That's why, like, in our team, like, we had American people, we had a person from Italy, French people, and surprisingly, like, it worked very well. Like, we never had any issues. Also, like, being able to work anywhere.
Mhm.
I learned that you might be moving to Puerto Rico sometime,
Yes.
which is super
Hopefully
exciting.
soon.
Very, very happy for you. So yeah, like, just giving a lot of freedom to people and giving the time, like, giving them a chance. Like, I was given a chance also, and
Mhm.
giving them time to learn, to adapt. And I think our diversity is great. Like, we learn so much from each other. Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing. That's amazing. As a social worker, not just a social worker, I think just me as a person, I strive to be a social justice advocate. So that's why I'm in this field. That's why I do what I do. And that's why I'm hoping to able to transfer those skills into management. But for someone like you who is in the tech industry, and they are often criticized for their lack of diversity, right? And also you mentioned that having English as a second language or third. For me, English is my fourth language. I struggle in school. I'm in a management position right now at work. I oversee 5 different programs for the VA, military sexual trauma, intimate partner violence, and a few other programs. Even then, I have to fight. I have to advocate for myself, not just for the people in my team or the people that I serve, that I provide services to. So in a tech industry, when you're a woman, English is not your first language, you speak with an accent. How do you navigate those environments?
Well, actually, it is a good point, and it's actually very hard. Like, I felt like a lot of judgment, never in my team, never with our direct partners, which was great. Maybe one day will come, but so far so good. But more like, people, when I will like network, when I will like pitch my thing. Yeah, I had like always the same question, but I mean, are you the one who started? Like, are you working for the company, or are you like managing the company? Like, they will not
Mhm,
like really believe me.
mhm,
um I had also, like, I remember, so I went to Berkeley, and it is really like in their business, like high school business, that I started my company and everything. And
mhm,
one time I went to South by Southwest, which is, the big conference in Austin, and there is a
mhm,
track for business. And there was a very well-known former, I think, sales responsible from Apple, like a guy, I forgot his name because now I don't care about him, but like
mhm,
very reputed businessman who worked for Apple as very top position. And I went to one of his conference, he was talking about how he really wants to help like entrepreneurs, that he was actually working with the business school from Berkeley and everything. So
mhm.
at the end of the conference, I went to see him, and I said, like, I started my company from Berkeley. Like, thank you so much for your work. It's amazing. And, I told him about my background and everything. And the only thing that he asked me was like, what do your parents think about that? Like, what do your parents think about like your life choices? And I was like, I like,
Oh, wow.
I could ask that like to Elon Musk or whatever, not that I want to compare myself, but yeah, so
Mhm,
that's the kind of things that I heard, or people that ask you to repeat like a lot of times what you say, to have it like perfectly the way they want
yes,
to say it.
yes.
And I will say, like, actually the most resistance comes from the government itself. Um,
Mhm, mhm,
for me, like, it's extremely hard to maintain my work visa.
mhm,
Even though I'm like doing business and creating employments and everything, it's expensive, and it's a lot of work, and you have to have like great lawyers. And several times, like, I feared that my visa was not going to be renewed. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that there are a lot of grants for entrepreneurship and science, and all of those are not eligible for companies that are not owned in majority by an American individual or an American company. So at this point, because early stage, like often, the CEO like earns the majority of the startup before you go to VC and etc. And so at this point, we can't have any grants. So when I see like some of my friends from Berkeley who started a company like me, and are at the same stage of advancement, so they don't have a product on the market, they're not making revenue yet, but they receive like millions in grants. And so this like is not possible for us. So I would say like there is a lot of work to do like on that point, for the government to be more welcoming for individuals who are really like contributing to the economy.
That's hard and a little disheartening. If you're passionate about your company and what you do, what do you do to not let these, I guess, unconscious biases, or maybe they are conscious of their biases if they're specifically for Americans, but what do you do to I guess address these or to not let it bring you down or affect your company?
Well, sometimes it's hard, but I think that's something that really helped me is actually like my employees. Like they are amazing, and they're my best supporters. Like something that I really liked actually about the US is to find people who are very passionate. And I'm a startup. I don't have like, for 1K, like I don't have a lot to offer. But Joe, Julia, and the others who were with us, they always like believed in the project. I think they believe in me. And at the end of the day, like this is all we need for the moment. Like I don't care about this old guy that I met like at networking and doesn't believe in me, or as long as my employees like believe in it, and our most important like partners, that's all I want to focus on for sure.
That's good. That's good. So then my next question, can you tell us a little bit about your the the business, the vision that you have for it and what you hope to accomplish?
Yes, so as I told you, like we developed this medical device to help people suffering from back pain to do physical therapy at home. So it's like an app connected to sensors to guide them, monitor them, and to help them also be monitored by physical therapists and better adapt a rehabilitation program. So our vision, like I know it might be a bit naive to say it, but it's really first like to help people. Like try to bring to the market not like the easiest product to develop that will ensure like the best margin of profits, because this we could have already done it like from the beginning. But we want to develop something that actually works and actually is going to bring benefits compared to the solutions that are on the market, and something that is like affordable as much as possible. So we want to bring people access to physical therapy, like better access, and also like reserve some of the inequalities that you have in terms of accessibility to care. So that's really it. So we're currently like still in development. So the next major stage will be like to go on the market. And then I guess like a lot of people like to talk about like exit strategy. Like they always ask you, so what do you want to do? Do you want to be acquired? Do you want to continue the business? It's pretty hard for us to say because we don't have like the return from users yet. But we could imagine that maybe one day we are acquired by a big player like on the market would like to add like our product to the solutions that they're already delivering in their digital clinic.
And I know you mentioned that your vision is really to help people. So you're focusing on helping people and having this device available for those that are in need to be able to utilize it for physical therapy. if you were to put it on the market and it goes well and you get a lot of interest, how would that, I guess, work in terms of being acquired by another company, a big company who may not have the same vision, who may think, wow, this is a great item. We're going to put it out there and the highest bidders will just go at it.
It's a very good question. So there is definitely like a very ethical consideration if in case we want to be acquired, to have someone who will like continue the same vision, because as I said, like we want to increase like accessibility to care, and our main target, even to start with, is people who are underinsured or not insured, to propose the solutions. So we have some competitors which vision we hate, like as I said, like people who develop like very simple technical solution, sell them to companies, like employers, insurance plans, charge a lot for employees who don't see like a lot of benefits for them. So definitely not working with them, because they're against like everything we believe in. So for sure, it will be like either like we find someone who has the means to increase our access and deliver a solution to more people because they have like more money, etc. Or it will be like just us, having to continue to work and do the efforts like to bring us to the most people possible.
So that would basically require that you take great measures and to ensure that the supply chain is ethical.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know then funding would have to play a role into it if you're already struggling with, getting funds here in America, but then you have this great tool that you think people can really benefit from. Then how do you weigh the pros and cons? Because people can use this. If I put this out there, they will benefit. But at the same time, you cannot find a supply chain that is ethical or in alignment with your vision.
No, it's actually a very good point, because we did a lot of pitching, to investors, and a lot of feedback that we got was that, the margins of profits were not high enough, even though sufficient to like maintain the company. Like, I feel like, for example, my dad has a company in France, and their goal is not to, acquire like hundreds of millions to be like a unicorn and everything. It's just like to have enough to pay employees like pretty well, to continue to develop, to continue to increase like slowly, organically. But I feel like here in the US, like because there are like so many success stories of entrepreneurs doing like huge return on investment, like 50% or more. A lot of VCs now are looking for that. So it's hard to look for VCs that, are okay to not have that much return on investment, like still be positive, like still be able, like, again, like to pay employees and to continue to develop. But yeah, so it's very hard for us to continue to keep the cost down for the final price of the product, not really like for manufacturing it and everything, but just because the investors are putting so much pressure on ourselves to make more money, like just go for the profit. And we're like, let's see like how many people it will help and like how it will make them happy and everything, really. And like, that's not my problem, like that's not my yeah, there's a big problem. Like it's hard, but it's feasible. But it's hard to find investors that actually care, for the end users and share the same vision. Yeah.
So you really have to stand firm on your morals, right?
No, completely. Yeah.
Okay. So looking into the future, where do you see the wearable technology industry heading? Like over the next decade, over the past year, 2 years, we've seen a lot in terms of just AI. So with wearable technology, like what do you see happening in a few years?
Well, I think it's going to continue like to explode.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of things will be great, like especially in the medical field. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there will be like, I hope, a lot of great advances that will allow to more personalize the care that is delivered to everybody if the development is done successfully. Because I was actually talking about that with one of my employees on Monday, and it's to make sure that every wearable technology that is developed and tested on a lot of very diverse people, because
Mm-hmm.
that might be like a limitation, on the ratings of the technology, like making sure that it's adapted to different like skin tones, etc. And fortunately, we see like products placed on the market, and
Mm-hmm.
once it's on the market, they're like, well, this is not working for a lot of people, and they're like, oh yeah, we just did not include it in our clinical studies. So
Yeah.
that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will say like another thing that will need to be kept in mind is again like making sure that if the solutions are really like bringing like benefits to patients, to be sure that they're accessible,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be expensive, and um, to be sure that it's not going to be like, when a pharmaceutical company is bringing like a novel drug that they have the patent for the moment, they can sell it very, very expensively.
Mm-hmm.
So as there are going to be a lot of patents on these technologies that are can be held for 30 years, to make sure that this technology is not going to be super expensive during that time.
Mm-hmm.
um, and the last thing I will say is also like the way that data is going to be treated,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and make sure that the laws around. I know there are a lot of laws during HIPAA and data protection, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, to make sure that it's treated properly.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully it will be very useful for people in general, for medicine or for something else. But I think it's going to be explode, and it's going to also change very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Even what we're developing, for the moment, it's connected to the phone and giving the biofeedback through the phone. But Apple is going to release the new like iOS vision, and this is also
Mm-hmm.
going to change the world of physical therapy. So we're going to almost get like obsolete when we get to the market. So it's
Mm-hmm.
also going to ask companies to always like adapt themselves to keep up to date with that.
Great. And then speaking of that, here's my concern because as I guess I would say as a consumer or as someone who might be thinking, oh, hey, my husband, he suffers from back pain. This would be great, right? But then we start thinking about data privacy, because that's a lot of concerns that people have. I'm doing, excuse me, and with my doctor, my research is on mandatory mental health screening, but for healthcare providers. So I have to do a lot of research in terms of stigmas, but also privacy concerns, because if I'm a provider and I have mental health issues, then do I need to provide that information to my leadership? So in your role as a leader, and who will be providing or connecting people's information, whether it's wearing the bracelet and tracking their movements, and you getting that information to it's uploading on their devices, correct?
Yes,
So,
yeah.
so how do you navigate that fine line between innovation and privacy concerns?
I
The,
Yeah, it's actually a good question, because for everything that is wearable, like there are often like a lot of algorithms that are created like to analyze the data, and to be able to improve these algorithms and produce more algorithms, you have to train it on data.
Mhm,
Um, so for sure, we are going to use the data that we collect from people to further like improve our technology and to develop
mhm,
into in more. So we're kind of like using something that is proprietary to them to
mhm.
like continue our business.
Mhm.
So, but I think that if you explain to your users that it's really like to provide them with a better experience, or to
Mhm.
be able like to help more people, and if they're happy about the experience that to deliver to them, I think they're more like inclined to accept that. Um, I'm lucky because on our team we have Julia, who is really like a patient advocate. Like she always like push us like to do more, to do better.
Mhm.
So she's very caring about how we use the data, how we protect it, and how we inform users about it. Um,
Mhm.
like again, based on the fact that we want to like have a different vision than our competitors. We
Mhm.
don't want to be the kind of like sends you like a very long agreement, about your data.
Mhm.
Just click on agree and you don't understand.
Mhm.
So we want actually like to describe in very simple like bullet points to inform like our users like how we're going to use their data.
Mhm.
Um, and then we will use like the best technologies that are already available. So actually Joe is going to do that. So he's
Mhm.
going to have a lot of work, but using everything that is already available, with um like AWS or Firebase or like Google, like all the servers where you
Mhm.
can stock your data, and using their protection, um, to make sure that everything is up to date and everything is the best that we can provide. But I will add that there is actually a fine line about this, because in theory, I'm always saying we are a medical device because I want us to have the same requirements than a medical device and keep us like um, providing the best experience as possible. But according to the FDA, we're not even a medical device. We're just a wellness device that
Mhm.
helps patients do something that is already considered to work for back pain, so physical exercises. So
Mhm.
if we wanted, we would not even have to do all that, because then it's not the same like treatment of data. It's not considered medical data, etc. So we want to do it for our users, but for regulations purposes, like if we wanted, we could do like things completely different and not like make it as safe, and not even like explain to users how we're using their data.
Mm. I have two questions in regards to that. You may have answered this already, but one is the privacy concern. So if you are going to post a disclaimer and you want it to be clear where anyone can understand it, at the same time, how do you ensure that, because some people are people, we all have different level of education, right? So I can read something that is in simple point, maybe 5 sentences, six. Okay, I get it. It's very clear. And another person might read that same information, but have like 30 questions. So
Yeah.
how do you balance between ensuring that you have all the information available and not so much that it overwhelms whoever's going to read it? Does that make
And
sense?
yes, that's a very good point, actually. I'm definitely going to discuss it with my team at the next team meeting. But so to do that, we will actually like run some user testing once we
Mhm.
have our finalized products. So
Mhm.
we will select like different pool of users from different backgrounds, trying to be as diverse as possible, and we
Mhm.
will let them through like the whole like device experience,
Mhm.
and we will see like if they understand things properly, if they have any questions, and so that will allow us to like refine everything, including these questions, for example. So that will like give us feedback and say like, okay, we try to make it simple, and at the end of the day nobody understands, they need more example, or they need less, like it's too much. So that's why like that's how we are going to make sure that the most people possible are
Mhm.
pleased and confident with this solution. Yeah.
Okay. And here's my other question. So legally, if you're getting this data from the consumers, right? And how do you tailor it to just get the specific data that you have? Let's say, for instance, I have a child who was in an accident and they injured their back. So now you're monitoring for that. And over here, you have a I don't know, a young adult female, 25 years old, who has endometriosis and really bad back pain when they're going through their menstrual cycle. So you're getting different data based on different circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So then how would you tailor it to just get the information that you need to track? Just, does that make sense for what I'm trying to ask?
No, it does make sense. Actually, like that's the problem also, is that getting as much data as possible will be the best.
Mhm,
Like to be able to see that, like to say like, okay, how different are the patients? How they hurt their back? What type of pain do they have? Like how does it differ? And to
mhm,
see like, how they respond to their treatment, so that we can better refine it in the future. Like to be able to say like in this type of patient, in this type of population, this worked better, and to be able like to do it. So actually the more information we gather on people, and the better. But
mhm,
that's a good point, is to be able to find the limits, like when is too much, when are we like use having data that's we should not be looking at, and it's like over preying, on people. Like I don't know if that
mhm,
makes sense. But to start with, because you are not sure like what the correlations will be, you're not sure what kind of data is going to um play the major roles into the type of treatment that you need to give.
mhm,
Like you want to connect as much as possible, and then when you start seeing like correlations, like to say like, I'm saying like examples, but like the age plays a major role, or this data or this data, then you can really focus on that.
mhm. Okay, so I guess you will need dependent and independent variables. So to get the data, um, what will be your process? Are you just going to have people volunteer to use it? Or because I know a lot of big companies usually they test things out on marginalized groups, or they go outside of the country where people don't have a choice, they don't know, then they use them as test subject. For this, where you already have a vision, you already know what you want to do, you want to help people. So I'm assuming you would have another way of getting the data, right? Or what is your plan in that regard?
So actually, like we don't we we want to go like direct to market.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we want to like, so we'll do like, we'll conduct some testing, we'll like give like discount or even free products on people who are willing like to test it, to have their feedback, etc. Then we want to like use the data directly from our users, both their personal data to personalize the experience, and also use their um, like the sorry, I'm missing a word, the effectiveness of the device, to be able to prove later, for example, to insurance companies, like how
Mm-hmm.
well we're doing and how effective we are.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so to collect the data, we'll use our device, of course, but we'll also like ask a lot of questions to our users, like surveys or questions like to fill in. And every time like they will have a choice if they want to provide the data or not. But what we will do is that we will explain why this data is important to personalize their experience. So we'll always like explain like, why do we need this measure,
Mm-hmm.
be able to really tailor the experience to them, but also to improve the experience like in the coming months by refining algorithms. So I think that what is important, it's really to explain to them why it's important and how we will use the data. Because if you just like, I remember that I tried the product from one of our competitors that I mentioned like earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
like we'll do like 2 minutes of exercise, and then you will spend like, I'm not kidding, like 10 minutes filling out surveys.
Oh my
um
goodness.
this data was just used to for them to have data on the effectiveness. So
Mm-hmm.
the exercises will be the same for everybody. Like we did not like personalize it to people. It's one program, of like 20 sessions, and it's always the same exercises. But then at the end of your session, you have questions about what was the pain intensity when sitting, when standing, when doing this. Can you go back to job? Like, it was just all these questions. And it felt terrible because I felt like I was exploited. Like, I'm exploited for spending time not to get better, but
Mm-hmm.
give you data for you to sell more products and make more profits.
Mm-hmm.
So that was not good for me. But I think that if patients understand that the primary use of this data is to help them to better the product for them and how we will use it, then I think they will feel better about it, better about sharing this information.
Definitely. And I think if people care about the item itself, they will be more than willing to provide their feedback and share, additional information, things you probably wouldn't have thought of. They will let you know. So I definitely agree with that. Oh.
And I think that also, like, for patients with pain,
Mhm.
they need to be heard. Like, a lot, and we did like um patients interviews like at the very beginning of the project to make sure that we were developing the solution that they really needed. And
Mhm.
a lot of time, like, very voluntary, people will give you information about their body, about their type of pain, when it happens, how it is, because back pain is so personal to everybody. It's not going to be affecting people the same way, and they really want to find a solution that is working for them. Most of the time they try like 50 solutions, like people tell them this thing worked for me, this thing worked for me, and they want to like find really the thing for them, because it's not like one size fits all at all, like for pain management. And so you will be surprised like how willing they are to like share personal information, to make sure that they will finally find the solution that they need. So if we
Mhm.
can provide them that to them, I think they will be okay with us using their data, of course, as long as we are not like reselling it, as long as we are not sharing it with people.
Yes, I think everybody want to make a difference, and people sometimes they just wanna feel seen, they wanna feel heard. I used to work the lifeline for suicide prevention, and one of the things I admire was people's ability to just call without knowing who they're talking to and just let it all out. And sometimes that's all they need, someone to say, I hear you. I understand, for you to validate their feelings. So if someone is in pain, because sometimes if you Black, you go to the hospital, after a while, they don't treat you the same way, or you're just looking for pain medications. But if you're there and as the innovator and you're like, no, I know you're probably suffering for real. Let's find a solution. People will really, I guess, they will work with you.
No, completely, for sure. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what you do with this. I'm looking forward
I'm
to it.
excited too to see it one day.
So we're almost done, but on the personal front, I love to read. I'm a bibliophile, and I've been reading a lot of books regarding leaderships. Personally, do you have any books that you would share with someone who might be interested in either starting their own business or going into tech or in a leadership position?
I actually have several. I'm terrible with book titles and writer names. So do you mind if I just like send you a list like in a couple of days with my favorites? I never remember like who wrote what.
It's okay, please do. And I will definitely read them and let you know what I think of them, and I will share it with my classmates. Um,
Okay, yeah, no, great, of course. And honestly, like if you want to discuss